Hi, this is Tom with the Vending Business Show here again with Larry Towner, where we've been discussing vending business cycles. And in part one, we covered spring and summer. So, what's next, Larry?
Well, what comes after summer, Tom? Fall time, right? So we're gonna continue this conversation with the fall time on the vending business cycles. And here's one thing about fall time, and this largely has to do when I talk about fall, I'm talking about after Labor Day or more or less in September, if you want to call it that. But it's essentially fall time encompasses after Labor Day until about Thanksgiving. And the fall time is from, again, we're talking about two different things. We're talking about retail selling and we're talking about account selling, which are two kind of different sales aspects of the vending business. But if you're into account generation, there's different concerns than there are on the retail side. So we've been discussing the retail side first. Fall time is a very, very strong time, like the spring, to sell product. You get a great shift in weather. What you have is you have generally cold mornings and warm afternoons, and that lends to retail sales really strongly. So because you can sell candy and food in the morning and you sell drinks in the afternoon. So fall is actually the time of the year, in my experience anyway, was always my largest sales volume came in the fall. Although the spring, summer, and fall were pretty level all the way across. It's just what happened is that in the spring and fall you had a perfect mix of products. You had about 50-50 snack to soda. Summertime you sold largely drinks, and then in the spring and then in the fall time you went back to snack and soda. One thing too is, just as a tip, is don't forget that as the weather does change, you have to change your product mix. When you come out of the cold weather, you go into the warm weather, you need to be moving into non-chocolate items that don't mold quite as much, that don't melt. You need to be asking your accounts, do they turn the air conditioning off during the nighttime or over the weekends? Because a couple of days in a hot room can ruin the inventory in your machines or make them unsaleable. Chocolate has a bad habit of turning white. It gets crumbly and white, and it's unsaleable at that point. That lends to service calls or service complaints, if you want to call them that. That opens the door for other vendors to come in and make the sales calls, because after all of your stuff in your machine is old and out of date, because it doesn't matter whether it's one item or it's all of it. They're going to say it's all of it. Anyway, with that said, in the fall time, it's a better time to sell than it is in the spring and the summer. Schedules are back to normal. You're seeing managers and people that are decision makers are in the accounts. They're kind of out of their heavy production season. They've got everything's running smoothly, at least they hope anyway. Everything's kind of smoothed out, so it's a good time to start laying your calls, your sales calls, if you're going to go for account generation in the fall time. That's the best time, because what happens is in the winter time is when the decisions are actually made. The best time to go selling in the vending account business is in the winter time. It's right before New Year's, because New Year's is a natural point of delineation. A guy's got his to-do list. He's had look at new vending accounts or new vending companies on his to-do list since the summertime. He's just not gotten around to it. He's been busy. December comes around, between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, it gets real slow in the business cycle, and he starts looking at that to-do list. And when you show up, or you've been there a couple of times over the year, and he's looking at his to-do list, he's got you up there saying, hey, I need to call XYZ vending company. They've been calling on me for a couple of months. I want to see what they have to offer. So December in particular is a strong time to be selling accounts, because New Year's is a demarcation point. Even out to January 31st, out to the first of the year, a great time, because it's that New Year's resolution. They want a new vending company. Retail sales, on the other hand, generally after Thanksgiving falls off to about half of what you'll do the rest of the year, largely because there's a tremendous amount of outside competition that comes in. You're looking at snacks and sodas and punches and cakes and cookies and turkeys on the tables in the break rooms. There's all this outside food that's coming in. Along with that, money starts to get tight for most of our consumers. They are looking at Christmas. They have huge amounts of money that they're going to spend on Christmas. They know it's coming up. And conversely with that, come January, they start getting their credit card bills. Sales fall off. They remain sluggish through January. They start to come back in February, or February as I like to call it. But during this whole time, weather can play an issue too, because if people get taken out on a weather day, they're not at their place of business to purchase from your vending machines. So they tend to be, sales tend to be a little sluggish on the retail side in this time. But at the same time, so you're not quite so busy doing your route, go make your sales calls. That pretty much wraps up the business cycle. Now, if you have particular instances of if you're wanting to try to negate those cycles, there's ways around that. Those are tactics that we'll talk about in a future show. And that does it for me right now. Tom, do you have any questions?
Those are some excellent tips there. Thanks so much, Larry. We'll be doing some more, like you said, on this topic. So you've been watching the Vending Business Show, a publication of A&M Equipment Sales.